So the very foundation of harmonious passion is that you do something because you love it. Now, let's talk about kids, because we've all been one, and so we can recognize that. Let's talk about something that you loved when you were, say, 5 years old, right? We wake up when we're 5 years old, and it's like, boop, time to play Legos. Bing, time to read a book. Bing, time to go outside and play with our friends. Bing, time to finger paint. Whatever it is, we get up and we're like, yes, that's what I want to do. I'm going to climb out of my bunk bed or roll out of bed and go find my friends or go find that book or do whatever it is that we're looking forward to. That's the very foundation of a harmonious passion, doing something that we love. Now, this is very different from an obsessive passion. Obsessive passion, as we tend to define it, is something we do for status or for glory or for money or for others. Now, you might not be 5 years old waking up thinking, boop, how am I going to make enough money to be able to pay my rent, get through? No, that's not how we think about it. But the other idea, the others, is something that often is an introduction to obsessive passion. We're doing it for somebody else. And so you might have been outside playing kickball, playing wiffle ball, sitting in the corner reading a book, doing whatever it is that you do. And all of a sudden you heard your parents call you. Hey, sweetheart, time to come in and practice piano. And when we ask our students, how many people here grew up playing a musical instrument? Probably 70% of them raised their hand. So they had played a musical instrument at some point. And then we ask them to keep their hands up and we say, anyone who's still playing, keep your hands up. And like 10% of them are still keeping their hands up. By the way, when I work with older crowds, it's like 2% of them who's still keeping their hands up. Now, there are a number of reasons why we might not be playing that instrument anymore. But one of the reasons is because it's not something we're necessarily interested in enough to pursue. When other things come along, we choose soccer, we choose debate, we choose whatever club we're in, right? In part, that's because those things are important, but also because the very foundations of our playing weren't necessarily because it was something we really wanted to do. We would come in and practice for 10 minutes staring at the clock, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to be in here when all my friends are outside. But that's how an obsessive passion can begin. Now, if we move forward and think about folks in the workplace, I have a bunch of friends who work in finance, and for the most part, they don't necessarily love their work. They love the spoils of it, as I said, status, glory, money, others. Those are characteristics of obsessive passion. And so for them, the status might be, check out my super cool business card, I'm working at a really powerful Wall Street bank. The money is the money, but it's not the job itself that they love. And that's very different for a friend of mine who has worked at a very prestigious firm on Wall Street for almost 20 years. When I ask him what about this work he seems to enjoy, because so many of his friends and colleagues don't necessarily love their work, he's like, man, I love math. I am a math geek. You know, I went to a school that emphasizes math. So I get to go into work and basically I get to try to solve puzzles all day. Now, it's clearly more complex than that. There are politics of the workplace. There are other things we need to consider in the hours. But the idea is that he really loves the very substance of what it is he does. He does it because he loves his job. Now, if we frame this up from a collegiate perspective, the question for you might be, why are you studying what you're studying? For many of you who are just beginning your careers in college, you may be thinking, well, I've known what I want to study for a long time. It's something I've really loved for a long time. For others, you're thinking, I'm still figuring it out, and that's part of the college process. Good thinking. For a lot of other folks, though, I'm doing it because my parents want me to. I'm doing it because that's what we do in my family. I'm doing it because I'm going to earn a lot of money that way. I'm doing it because my peers will think I'm super cool. When we begin that way, we may be starting off in a way that kind of lends itself to moving in that obsessively passionate manner. So think about why you're studying what you're studying. Think about the paths you're pursuing from a work perspective down the line, too. Ask yourself why. Asking yourself that question might give you a nice head start when it comes to the idea of harmonious or obsessive paths.